Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to the second week of February as we head into midterms. Hooray! Our favorite time of the year, right? Christmas has nothing on this. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can prepare for the midterm. Make sure we've got all our ducks in a row before we get to that high point assignment. As we are preparing for the midterm, you do have a little bit of reading to do just to round out our time. So our last person we're reading in the modernist period is Zora Neale Hurston, and she's got some excellent poems. I'll be posting a lecture about her no later than tomorrow. I'm hoping by this evening, but no later than tomorrow. So you'll be reading How It Feels to Be Colored and Sweat, both of which are in our textbooks. So fabulous work to round out our modernist period there, and then we will be prepping for our midterm exam. Last week you worked on the study guide for the midterm exam, so let's take a look at that. Assignments, where is that bad boy? Here it is, midterm exam. Gosh, we've done a lot of work already, haven't we? Let's go into the modules, that'll be faster. Hopefully all of your guys' Monday is going better than mine. There is not enough coffee in the world sometimes, folks. All right, here we go. Modernism study guide. So hopefully you guys worked on this last week. This is just a fill in the grid sort of assignment so that we can remember what all of our past readings were about. We have covered a lot of different authors, a lot of poems, some short stories, a little bit of playwright in there as well. So I filled out the first two as examples for you. Glaspell's Trifles. The topic is differences between men and women. This is just kind of brainstorming. There's not necessarily a right answer here. The idea of justified murder. The woman was pretty miserable. The guy seemed to be kind of like an awful person. Is it okay to kill him if we hate him? Like, those are questions that the play asks us to think about. Realism. The way that the dialogue was happening seemed very real, like real people might say this. And then something about the main character never appearing. There's the symbolism of the bird in the cage, this idea of feminism. So lots of good things there. So just write down just like little notes to help you remember. Frost in the Road Not Taken was about nature, was about making decisions, about the outward and inward journey. Very simple form. There was some fun vocab we could talk about. And then we talk about that with all of these other ones. So 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird, you guys spent a lot of time thinking about. That one should be easy to fill out. Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, we got lots to say. So just pick a couple things. Williams, snarky little fridge note about eating plums. Lots and lots of fun poetry and readings we've done together. Faulkner's A Rose for Emily. You could talk about like, ew, she was sleeping next to her husband's dead corpse for like years and years. Super nasty, right? Like, that's a fun little turn of events there. So you can talk about Faulkner's ideas. Fun. We talked about Millay a lot. So it should be very easy at least to fill in apostrophe to man. Millay hates war. She thinks humans are stupid, blah, blah, blah. Good stuff there. We've got Langston Hughes. We talked about I2 in great detail. He wants a seat at the table for him, his people, his culture. He disagrees with Walt Whitman, who thought that everyone was being represented, and Hughes is like, oh, no, we're still here, and we didn't get representation. We can talk about E.E. Cummings, Anyone Lived in a Pretty How Town. We had fun translating that poem. We could talk about Cummings' Icing of Olaf, Glad and Big. If you get bored, there are some really fun memes people have made about this particular poem using Olaf from Frozen, so yay. Lots of good stuff with Zora Neale Hurston that we'll be talking about as well. So do make sure to fill out each of these grid spots as you prepare for your midterm. And then as we get into our assignments, I do want to, we'll go through the calendar again. That's easy. We'll talk about that midterm as well. So this week you're going to be preparing for the midterm, and then you're going to take your midterm exam. Then you've got a break, and then there's a short essay you'll be working on this week. So it is kind of more of a writing heavy week than we have had in the past. And so I just want to take us to our class real quick so we can look at that midterm assignment. We'll pull it up. Midterm So here's the midterm short essay. We can talk about that real quick. So you're going to be writing in a rhetorical situation. For example, your friend doesn't understand anything about modernism literature and you are an expert because we've spent 6 weeks on it, right? So super pro. So you're going to write an essay in which you explain some of the following concepts. You're going to pick 3 topics often found in modernist writing and events that made those topics a concern, and 3 literary techniques of modernist writing, and talk about how those techniques helped make things connect. So you can use any of the following text in your explanation, but just these, because we've got so many to choose from. It's nice to make that list a little shorter. So you can look at Winesburg, Ohio. We read excerpts from that. 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird, In a Station in the Metro, Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, Sweat by Zora Neale Hurston, which you'll be reading today, Apostrophe to Man by Edna St. Vincent Millay, Pity This Busy Monster Man Unkind. You're going to be working with these fabulous poems. And I've got like an outline for you here to help you out. So in your introduction, you're going to introduce your friend to modernism. Talk about the concept of modernism. Go back to that PowerPoint, that recorded lecture about modernism in the modules. You can talk about some of the historical events. Like, hey guys, lots of things happened here that made writers super pissed and made them have really strong ideas about stuff. Like World War I and World War II and the Great Depression and the 1900 influenza pandemic and all kinds of stuff. So lots of deep feelings happening during the modernist period. Some of those are sparked by historical events. Some of them could be sparked by sexism or racism. Excuse me. So talk about those ideas in your introduction. Then your body paragraphs, you should probably have at least 2. One for topics and one for techniques is an easy way to organize this. Is open with a descriptive statement. So you could say one topic developed in modernism is how humanity has progressed. You could talk about changing technology and how people thought science would save us, and this kind of more concrete instead of abstract thinking. You want to make sure to include authors and titles the first time you mention them. So if you're talking about how humanity has progressed, you could talk about Pity This Busy Monster Man Unkind, and how this idea of progression is not always positive. That kind of thing. Oh, and as an example, modernism should be capitalized because it's a proper noun. It's a movement. We do want to use MLA format in our documents. That includes in-text citations, so the author's last name and the line number that you're pulling the citation from. If it's a poem, the page number. If it's a short story or a chapter excerpt or a play. And then you can have a conclusion where you recap your points. These are the things I'm looking for when I grade. And this is just a nice bullet pointed checklist. You can be like, check, I did that. Check, I did that. So we want an introduction to modernism. We want a thesis at the end of that introductory paragraph, specifically a thesis about modernism, the topics and techniques used. We want body paragraphs that are coherent and have topic sentences. Topic sentences are like little baby thesis statements for each of the paragraphs. We want 3 topics present. So you could talk about feminism, you could talk about war, and you could talk about death, because they talk about all those things, right? You could use 3 literary techniques. You could talk about E.E. Cummings, who decides that punctuation is dumb. You could talk about the Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock and how the stanzas are kind of like randomly spaced and very visual. You could talk about 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird and how that poem is very fragmented in how it functions. Like each stanza is its own unique little poem. And then in the conclusion paragraph, you want to present and happily conclude the essay. So think about if you've ever seen a crime drama on TV, like Law and Order or something like that, when the lawyer's up in front of the court and he's talking to the jury and he's making his closing comments and he's like, this is the big idea I want you to take away and here's what I want you to do with it. That's kind of what we do in the conclusion. And quotations are incorporated correctly. I'm going to be checking to make sure we've got in-text citations for those. And the essay shows evidence that it was proofread and that standard English is followed. You can use free websites like Grammarly.com to help check your sentences. You can also take your essay to the CBC Online Writing Center. This will give you good feedback on your writing as well, and this is a bonus, extra credit points. So if you take this essay to the CBC Online Writing Center and get their feedback. Send me an email with the feedback that they provided you. So they'll give you a document that has feedback. Email me a copy of that document and I will enter 10 extra credit points in the gradebook for you. Woohoo! Yay! So do that. Do make sure to avoid plagiarism. We are going to be submitting this document through the Turnitin software, which checks for plagiarism. Make sure that you're not copying ideas from anywhere else. If plagiarism comes up, I will send you an email. There's an email that has to go to the guy in charge of student conduct and discipline. It's a whole big thing. The assignment gets a 0. Like it's just a mess. So let's just use our own brains. It's easier anyway. So that is our short essay you're writing for the midterm. Should be at least 4 well-developed paragraphs, maybe 5 or 6, depending on how much you want to get into detail about the topics and techniques. Each paragraph should be at least 7 sentences long. In academic writing, we shoot for between 6 and 8 sentences normally to make sure that these are well developed. So make sure you're really talking about your ideas, you're pulling examples from the text. We should be able to get to that length in no time flat, especially if you're using quotes from the original source material. So that is the midterm short essay. Whew, that was hard to say. If you have any questions about that, reach out. I'm here to help.